So we talked about NPCs before, and NPCs are what they call in these gaming world, they call that non-playing characters. Now in my last video, you can look at, I think it's called the hacked simulation hypothesis. And in that video, I speak about a bunch of things. So if you want to look into that first, then you could look and listen to that one. But basically, we're entertaining the idea of this being a simulation, or, well, pondering the functionality even at this level of whether this is a simulation, how it works. And so we're looking at the term NPC, non-playing character, and we made a differentiation in the last video that maybe there are people that are fillers, NPCs, and there's actually people that come into this avatar body system and actually have a soul plan and a spirit energy behind it. So their source energy is the spirit, that's the true, who they are truly. And then you step into these downward layers into an avatar to play an NPC type of simulation game. Now, it's also very probable, and that's why I want to start off here with, is that we are all NPCs. So it's almost like a kind of desperate attempt for those who are more awake to pretend that they're somehow special, that they're somehow, you know, like, oh, I've woken up, I know what I'm doing, I do have a soul, or I do have a spirit, I do have a plan, and I'm not one of these mindless drones that you run into the street on a daily basis. So then you'd get this theory, which I, basically the hypothesis that I spoke about in my last video, which explains the idea of there being the useless ones, or the fillers, the ones without a soul, without a spirit, without a real design, that are just there to fill up the holographic simulation. And then there's, of course, those who come in with real intention, and that's the differentiation that was made. However, it's very likely that there's nothing other than NPCs. And we're all in the simulation. There's just more or less complicated variations. And which means that I'm saying that everybody's an NPC, even the ones who are, let's say, spiritually awake, or speaking about subjects like this, or whatever you want to call it, awake to the lies of the world. And then when they try to convince their friends and family about what's going on and they refuse to wake up, we say, well, what the hell's going on? These people are unwilling to change their software. They're unwilling or incapable of being reprogrammed. So Tom Campbell, in one of his interviews, was talking about such a proposal in which he calls it free will. He says basically, if somebody gets new input, let's say about 9/11 or some other conspiracy type of thing, which is not a conspiracy obviously, but some kind of a basic knowledge on the financial system, on the medical corruption, on the political lies, on these kinds of things, right? And then they simply refuse to take that information in, do research, and change their perspective on life. Well, that's what most people would refer to as an NPC, a non-playing character. They simply seem to lack the capacity to assimilate new information, and then when they have assimilated this new information, come out with new views on the world and approaches towards dealing with the world and their life and everything around them. And that's why we want to make, or a lot of people make these kinds of distinctions, and Tom Campbell makes the one where he says they lack free will, so they're not real, let's say, sentient beings with the capacity of free will change, and they can't evolve. Now, I'm suggesting, to start with this video, that there is no other players than NPCs. There are no other players than NPCs. There are only NPCs. There's just less complicated and more complicated software. Let's say the algorithms and the informational input is different. And so, to make a very simple overview, if you look at these NPCs in these games that these kids play these days, if you walk up to an NPC, which is just a filler inside of the game, it's not a player somewhere on the internet in another part of the world with his headphones on and playing the game, it's just a filler. So you would go up to it and say, hey, I'm looking for the gold, you know, where can I find the gold? And then this player would say, yes, it's nice weather, isn't it? And then you say, what? I'm looking for the gold, can you help me? And then this NPC says, oh yeah, I'm going out for a walk today too, it's really nice. And then you ask him again, where's the gold? He says, oh yes, really a nice weather, isn't it? So there's basically 2 lines or 5 lines or 10 lines that this NPC player, this NPC non-player, is capable of coming back with. And this is what we're running into when you're trying to speak to people out in the world. I mean, they seem to have a standardized algorithmic software download program that's been set into their system, which is called conditioning. cultural conditioning, educational conditioning, familiar conditioning, religious conditioning. All these conditionings have programmed them with a basic package in which they can perform. That's the algorithms that their NPC can deal with and scramble and reuse in different ways, but not beyond that. So I want to give a model where we're talking about 3 levels of NPCs, and that's considering that we're all NPCs, right? So people who are awake and speaking about subjects like this could be considered a level 3 NPC, and then the people that are really, really incapable of learning, no matter what they do, repeating the same mistakes, no matter who comes and gives them new information, their level never increases. It seems like they're incapable of learning anything and evolving. That's a level 1 NPC. And then there's a middle level, which would be the level 2 NPC, which is, I think, like kind of an application for a level 3 NPC. It's the test ground whether you're even will be given the chance to participate in a level 3 NPC. And in that sense, we're talking about a game with different levels. And the number 1 NPCs are just programmed. They're just fillers. They don't have any high level of capacity to ever evolve. So you would say, like when you have a hosting package for a website, you go to, let's say, the HostGator. And HostGator sells different packages. You start with a baby plan or something like that. Then it's one website and so much, gigabytes or whatever, right? Then you can take package 2, and that would be, say, for example, up to 30 websites and so much gigabytes. And then you could take package number 3, which is the professional one, and you pay a little bit more, but then you can have infinite amount of websites and an unlimited amount of storage, let's say, right? Well, that's kind of what we're talking about when you enter the game. Depending on your input, you either get to be a level 2 or 3, or maybe even you would consider level 1 some input, that's it. So the parameters are limited. A level 1 NPC player will not have 3 lines or 5 lines like in the games that we play, because the games are just a reflection of the macro level. So, but you might have up to 60,000 lines and informational computational capacities. So the computational algorithms that is allowed only to a level of 60,000 complexities. Let me just, I'm just formulating it in this way. Meaning that the download capacity for a level 1 NPC player only reaches 60,000 computational segments or points or capacities, right? When you go to a level 2 NPC player, there is a different kind of level. And I'll go into the difference between information and knowledge as well in a bit, but then in that package, you can go beyond 60,000 computational capacities, software capacities, algorithm combinations. And then you can go to level 3 NPC, and a level 3 NPC player is a player who has reached a level, or by some reason, from having played many games or whatever the reason is, having reached a certain level of self-knowledge and wisdom and truth, compassion, and whatever you want to call it, whatever the game is aimed at learning, then that player is capable of leaving the game. So that player has an unlimited capacity to take in new information and knowledge and process that, re-evaluate the structure in which it lives, adapt its way of behavior, and come with a new solution. So we're talking about level 1 NPC players being very basic and going up to 60,000 computational segments and no beyond. Then the level 2 might go, let's say, up to 250,000 and not beyond. And then you have an NPC level 3 player, level 3 player NPC, and that one is capable of infinite learning capacities, even to outlearn the holographic system. So you can leave, that's what they call enlightenment or freedom or whatever you want to call this, these spiritual kind of terms for leaving the entire simulation behind and realizing that I, the truth behind the simulation, am not in the simulation really, I'm not part of the simulation really, I'm not the body nor the mind, but I in fact am that which I am, which is the aware, conscious principle of consciousness itself pervading what we would call in this lower level space and time. So, or not even space and time, beyond space and time, right? The infinite principle of the universe as awareness, and there might be levels above that again. But from this point of view, a level 3 NPC player is the only player that is capable of absorbing, listening, learning, researching, and taking in all those new computational informational segments, incorporating into the already existing computational software algorithms that are functioning, and then changing its behavior, stepping off of certain ideas, learning, being able to reject or see that a model that was used before is false, and accepting that I no longer see things the way I saw them before because now I've got new information. This means, if you look at this model, and this is just a model, it's like a metaphor again, you know, whether it's the dreaming dream time, or whether it's the consciousness model of non-dualistic view, Advaita, or whether it is the holographic simulation model, right, the hypothesis, or whether it is the Buddhistic way of looking at it, or the Hindu Vedas and all these things, the scriptures and stuff like that. Many, many things like the Sat Yugas, right, the Yugas, the 4 ages, the Golden Age and all that, right. We're in the Kali Yuga apparently now, where we have an inverse, where the lowest level of corruption is on the foreground. So the lies are on the foreground. And that's why those who are waking up from an NPC, at level 3 NPC level, they are realizing the false structures, the religions, and all the false lie structures, the money and the politics, and everything is a lie, and everything has been inverted. Because we're going back to a Sat Yuga, right, which is the ultimate golden age stage. And so those who are breaking free out of this awakening process could be called NPC level 3 players, level 3 NPC players that are awakening from the lies of the Kali Yuga inversion, where everything is inverted. We've been corrupted in the sexual way. Men and women have become sexual instead of loving. Medicine is now killing more people than it's healing. Education is indoctrination. All these inverse systems. Politics is one big lie. The justice system is unjust. Everything is a lie. So we're at this inverted point. And the golden stage, the golden age, the Sat Yuga, has always been here. But the attention of the people, of the prevailing focus, has been on the Kali aspect, the dark, corrupted aspect. And this we sometimes call caused by demons or interdimensional beings or parasites and these kinds of things. But in fact, we're just talking about the dualistic downside, the dark side, the lost side, the corrupt side has been prevailing and focused on. So the practical side of this, what I wanted to go into, is this. If you use this model, this analogy, this metaphor type of metaphor about this being a holographic simulation, and we are like gamers that have gone in another world. We've put on some kind of mechanism, let's say, and I'm not talking about that literally, but it could be literally just the embodiment. But let's just say you put on this thing and you go into this field of this game, and it's called Earth, the Earth game, right? That's the analogy I gave last time as well. And so let's say at that level you're some kind of being of a higher order, and you decide to play this game. And Black Mirror even has some of these things on Netflix. You could watch some of this series. They got these kinds of things, the ideas they play with. And let's say your mother says, hey, dinner will be ready in 20 minutes, and you're this being over there. And if you go into this game, the Earth game, it could be that every minute is one life. So if your mother says, oh, in 20 minutes dinner will be ready, and you put this thing on, experientially you will go into the Earth game for 20 lives. Let's say one life, whether you live, 60 years or 80 years or 40 years, whatever. Or you could even say that every year is a minute, whatever. But the point is, let's just say that for 1 minute is one life. So if you play 20 minutes of that game, this game, you will come for 20 lifetimes, right? So you step in, and you can step in at any level. You can step in at a level of an NPC 1, an NPC 2, or an NPC 3. Maybe that's not really the way it works, but maybe it's the way it works. You start at an NPC level 1, you have to work your way up. So you could also say that you might be able to choose to step in where you want. There's another view of it. But if you step in later, at an NPC level 3, you really skipped a lot of the hardships of life. You know, if you step in at level 1, you probably end up in, you know, a rice field somewhere in Cambodia with abusive parents or something like that. You know, that's a heavy place to start. But it could be that these games are just games and you choose wherever you step in. But let's say you step in level 1 because everybody has to. Well, then you work yourself up. And the reason you have to work yourself up is that from the level 1 NPC going up to 60,000 computational algorithms, when you reach that upper realm, you can start going into the next level, NPC level 2. And when you reach the 250,000 computational capacity level, then you could move into level 3. So you move your way up into the game like we play games now, and kids play games now. I don't play games, but I used to back when I was younger. And the NPC level is therefore you go up and you learn, and this is what we call this evolutionary cycle of life, where you go in and out and you come back and you learn and you design a new lifestyle or whatever, right? And then you reincarnate at a new place. But from the position of your being, where you're stepping out of because your mother's preparing dinner and you got 20 minutes and you lock onto the system, you go into your avatar body and boom, life 1, right? And you live this life, and it's accelerated from the point of view of the being, the higher being, but from our point of view, you're living, you know, 50, 80, whatever years, right? And if you look at this, you'll also start to see the futility, the impossibility of trying to teach other NPCs. And this is a very important part, because I think a large part of the struggle of NPCs, and especially the higher NPCs, let's say level 2 and going into level 3 and up, especially at the end of level 3, or maybe at least not at the end, but somewhere in the middle, there's a very big hardship concerning the awakeness that you have. So if you have realized a lot of structures are false, but the people around you have not, this causes a lot of confrontation. Plus, there is this tendency for people to want to wake other people up. So you always have the tendency to speak to these people and think, wow, I mean, the simplicity of their algorithms, their incapacity of seeing bigger structures and deeper realizations of this system is so pathetic and ridiculous that you always have the tendency to teach. But if you were able to, if we would just be able to look at the facts, if you take this model as a fact and say, we're looking at an NPC who is unable at this time to move with more computational capacities. It is incapable of taking in the new information. And I'm not even talking about the lower levels, because I mean 9/11 stuff for me is Santa Claus stuff. When somebody talks to me and says, oh no, there's no proof that 9/11 was not done by these terrorists, you know. You say it's been done by other people, and I don't even know who's done it, but if you give that example, you say, it's definitely not the true story, how it happened, that's all. And they go in and say, oh no, that's conspiracy theories. Basically, you might as well stop talking altogether, because that's not deep stuff, and that's not stuff about the simulation hypothesis. That's not stuff about there being different string theories, dimensions, overlapping Mandela effects. You know, people have been downloaded, this thing has been reset, the computer game has been reset, and that's why you got differences. And, you know, these people are not even at that level. They can even consider the possibility and then do 5 minutes of research to discover that, no, the 9/11 story doesn't match up at all. So we have the tendency, and I'm considering most, or if not everybody that's listening to these videos, NPC level 3, so a level 3 NPC player, that at some stage in that level, and I'm saying that it makes no sense to try to convince these people of that. It's almost like being in a room, for me it's like that. I mean, if I have to convince somebody that the monetary system, the whole financial fractional reserve system, is a false system, or that doctors are indoctrinated with the current doctrine that they believe in, the medical lies that they spread, and I have to try to convince somebody, I compare that level of communication, I compare that to being in a classroom full of kids that still believe in Santa Claus. I mean, imagine you're in a room of 40 kids that still believe Santa's coming down the chimney, and you're the only kid that knows that Santa's a bullshit story. and you've understood the entire structure, how they've lied to you, and how this whole thing doesn't work, and that there's actually on Christmas Eve, there's Santas walking in every shopping mall and every corner of the street, and yet these kids haven't figured that out yet, you know? These kids literally still believe Santa is like, that's the Santa, you know? Like, have you seen the beard? It's loose. They don't even see the beard being loose, you know? You're like, look at it, this guy underneath, you know, he has his colors of his hand is even different. They put some color on his face and everything. It's a fake beard. It's a, you know, look, he's getting in his own car right now and driving off with his wife. And look, there's another one. You know, it's like these people are just in denial, right? So it's very important for this model to have a practical function. Otherwise, I'm speaking for no reason. The reason would be that if you understand that you have to categorize NPCs, you have to be able to look at NPCs and see, are they a level 1, are they a level 2, or are they a level 3 NPC? And even when they're a level 2 or a level 3 NPC, there is this big gap still. You know, we have cultural gaps and sexual gaps and age gaps and all these kinds of things, right? We also have an NPC gap. I mean, it's the most important gap. And it's just not possible, you know, and never shall the twain meet, said, I think, Mark Twain, right? They will never be able to be a fit, because if you are talking to an NPC, a level 1 NPC player or a level 2 NPC player, and you're trying to convince them of something that is not even graspable for some people that are in the level 3 NPC players. Because even amongst the level 3 NPC players, there's a stage in which you cannot talk about things with the ones that are in the beginning of that stage, let's say, right? Because it might just be too much. Yes, they're awakening. Yes, they're realizing more things. Yes, they're assimilating new information, and they're using that to restructure their indoctrinated system, their belief system, their NPC program, their algorithms. But they can't go and make that leap yet. And then we, as silly NPC players, most of us at least, I'm speaking to those who at least feel that they have done the same thing I've done, and spend literally hundreds of hours talking to drooling NPC players that are like, I said, anybody home? Have you anything of what I registered? You know, the other day I was speaking to somebody, the same thing happened. You know, it's like, oh yeah, they're listening. You know, you think they're listening. Yeah, and then they go, oh, by the way, I ran into Johnny the other day. Remember Johnny? He went fishing with us like a couple of years ago. He's like, we just shifted from a conversation about the structure of the universe, the potential that we are living in this system, and whether you get out or not and be recycled or not. And this guy just goes and says, you know, I stopped for 20 seconds. And he goes, it's nice weather out here. Isn't it? Nice weather out here. And I'm like, I just talked about the essence that probably is the basis of our holographic simulated universe, and the quantum aspect, the escape method, how to be still, how not to identify with the algorithms. And I stopped for 20 seconds. And wow, it's great weather, isn't it? It's like, what the fuck, you know? So we, the ones who are thick and refuse to recognize that you do not, like I think they said, obviously Jesus said, don't cast pearls before swine. How often do we cast pearls before swine? And I may add to that, I was listening to a lady the other day who was saying, it's not our duty to wake them up, right? It's not even our duty. In fact, it's blasphemy. Because if we try to wake people up who are not ready to be awoken, you might actually blow their fuses. You might actually blow up their design. They might need 100 lifetimes more to get where you're at to even wake up to the point you're talking about. And so talking about them, if you push through, if you insist on them grasping it, you will force fuses to blow. Because it's impossible that the people that I generally meet who are asleep to suddenly make this leap. For most of us, and myself included, my NPC has been taking in an incredible amount of information and data and knowledge, right? Information, knowledge, let's just call it data, right? Algorithmic program data, and assimilating that into new understandings. That took many, many years. I started when I was 20 years old, when I had my awakening. The first big one where I was trusted into the moment and realized I was one with the whole universe, this mystic experience, they call it, right? Now, from there, I have done thousands of hours of research and hundreds of hours of meditation. So I can't expect an NPC player that is at level 1 or 2 or even the beginning of stages 3 to make the giant leap from where they're at to here. It would melt down their entire software system. They have like 1 terabyte available, and you're just suddenly just like, okay, process this, bitch. Try this quantum field of, 100 terabyte stuff. And there's a fried computer, So we have to understand the model should be understood. Not everybody is equal. No, not everybody's equal. Everybody's like, that's a bullshit inverted story from the draconic bullshit corruption of this system within the system. That everybody's equal. Everybody's equal. Oh yeah, everybody's equal? Then why can't I drive a Formula 1 car? Why don't I get, why is only these guys get in there? Like, what's his name? I forgot his name, but why do I not get to, do this and that and that? Why don't I get to fly an F-16, like these pilots do, right? Because you need to be trained. You can't just get in there like that, It's not a free-for-all. Not everybody is equal. You can't get the same jobs. Why does the guy that gets all D's and F's in school not get into university? He doesn't get into university because he's not fit for university, right? Is that equal? No, that's unfair. No, it is fair. It's absolutely fair. But it's what these dumb people would say, right? The NPC programs at the lower levels would be like, oh, everybody has equal rights, equal rights. Yeah? Try getting in university if you failed all your classes in high school and you're an idiot, right? I mean, you're not going to get in. They're not going to let you in. They're not going to let you drive that car. They're not going to let you, be the CEO of Apple. They're not going to, Elon Musk is not going to take you on as his right hand, business companion because you were like, oh, I get equal rights. Equal rights, my ass. Equal rights is bullshit. It's one of those stupid diversion things, right? So you got to recognize, and we have to recognize that we're looking probably at all NPCs, just simple ones and complicated ones. The simple ones can handle up to 60,000 bits of algorithm, let's say, and then you go, let's say, up to 250, and this is just an analogy, there's no numbers that have any reality, just to give an example. And then you have an NPC 3 player, and the NPC 3 player, the level 3 NPC player has the capacity to, within that very life of 20, 30, 60 years, whatever the body avatar lives, to actually grasp the full, or to assimilate, to intake, to restructure, to make sense of it, to distill, to throw away all the falsehoods, to synthesize and stick to only the purified essence of the intelligent processing, and remain with the hard core or the essence of what is going on. And in doing so is able to evolve out of the game, and then you've basically passed the game, the test, or whatever you want to call it, right? So then you take off the thing, and your mother's like, dinner's ready. I'm like, yeah, yeah. And you take it off, and she says, how far did you get? And let's say every level has 1 to 500, so and level 1 NPC player goes to 60,000 bits, and then the other one goes to 250, and then the other one goes to 1 million, let's say, the level 3 NPC player. And 1 million is enlightenment, and you've reached everything you could within this game. You've learned all the lessons you could within the Earth game. And so you take the thing off after 20 minutes at that other level of being, where we are gods, or whatever you want to call it, as pure awareness and spirit. And your mother says, oh, how did you do? And you say, whew, I mean, I'm at this level right now where I'm kind of like waking up, and I've been waking up for 10 years, and I know that the entire system is false, and the money is false, and the doctors are false, and the politics is false, and I know that there's secret projects, and they have technologies, and there's other games out there in the intergalactic system of aliens and whatever, and all these things, and there's whistleblowers that speak about it, but yet the majority of the people around me are just not awake to it, and they just refuse, Mom. I don't get it, And your mom said, well, come to dinner and explain to me a little bit more. So you go to dinner and you sit down, you're like, and the people, they just don't want to wake up. I mean, I speak to them, and it's amazing. So, okay, good. So you're at that level. And what point are you at now? Well, I'm at level 3, what they call level 3 NPC. And that goes from 250,000 computational insights all the way up to 1 million. And I'm at 632,000. Oh, so you're quite far in the game, but you still need 300 something to go. Well, I can tell you, says your older being godmother, and she says to you, I'll tell you what, you think you're far? Well, watch what happens when you really get to the end, because you think that so far you've learned from 1 to 600 and something thousand, but these last 360,000, whatever, right? That's going to be phenomenal, because everything you know will be seen to be false. I mean, everything you know will seem to be false. You are not real. Your body is not you. Your mind is not you. Your world is not you. The belief systems, any of them, anything that is computational is not real. Any algorithm is not real. There is nothing, absolutely nothing real. That's what the awakening is, and that's what the apocalypse is, and that is what this awakening process of the 2012 process is in that game, is when you start getting further and further, more and more, you start waking up and realizing everything is false. And obviously, that's the learning school that you step in for it as. And that's just another model. But then the mother says, just make sure that when you're in the game, you don't try to wake up level 1 NPC players. I mean, it's futile. Don't cast pearls before swine. And watch out with the wine.